Have you ever looked into someone's eyes and realized you had already lost the most important person in your life? Imagine being one of the richest women in America, walking through your own company, only to freeze in disbelief when you see a young woman quietly mopping the floor. She is overworked, ignored, and treated like she doesn't matter. Then one tiny detail stops your heart. The necklace around her neck is one you have searched for over 20 years. Could this janitor be the little daughter you believed was gone forever? Before we begin this unforgettable story, welcome to Enlightened Story. If you enjoy emotional stories about kindness, hope, and second chances, please subscribe, like this video, and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. Your support helps us bring more inspiring stories every week. Elizabeth Morgan was one of the most respected billionaires in the United States. She had built Morgan Technologies from a tiny garage business into a company worth billions of dollars. Newspapers admired her success. Business magazines called her a genius. But behind every smiling photograph was a woman carrying a wound that money could never heal. 22 years earlier, Elizabeth's husband, Robert, had disappeared after a painful misunderstanding during their difficult financial days. He had taken their 3-year-old daughter, Ava, with him. Elizabeth searched for years, hiring investigators and traveling across the country. Every search ended with disappointment. Eventually, everyone told her to move on, but she never truly did. Every birthday, she bought a small gift for Ava and locked it inside a wooden box in her office. She believed that somewhere, somehow, she might still be alive. One rainy Monday morning, Elizabeth decided to visit the company's oldest office building without informing anyone. She wanted to see how employees were treated when executives were not watching. As she walked through the hallway, she noticed a young cleaner quietly mopping the floor. She looked exhausted. Her uniform was old and her shoes were worn out. Employees rushed past her without saying hello. One manager accidentally dropped coffee on the floor and simply pointed at the mess before walking away. The young woman smiled politely and cleaned it without complaining. Elizabeth stopped. There was something strangely familiar about her face. Then she bent down and a silver necklace slipped from beneath her shirt. Elizabeth's hands began to shake. It was a tiny heart-shaped pendant engraved with 2 letters, M. Elizabeth Morgan. She had personally given that necklace to her daughter on her 3rd birthday. She could hardly breathe. The young woman noticed her staring and quickly apologized. "I'm sorry, ma'am. Am I blocking your way?" Elizabeth whispered. "Where did you get that necklace?" She gently touched it. "My father gave it to me before he passed away. He told me never to sell it because it belonged to my mother." Elizabeth felt her world stop. "What was your father's name?" she asked. "Robert." Elizabeth's eyes filled with tears. What is your full name?" "Ava Robert Morgan." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Elizabeth couldn't believe the words she had just heard. Ava had spent years believing her mother had abandoned them, because that was what someone had told her after her father's death. With no family left, she had worked countless jobs to survive. She eventually found employment as a cleaning worker at Morgan Technologies without ever knowing the company belonged to her own mother. Elizabeth wanted to hug her immediately, but she knew trust could not be forced. Instead, she smiled gently. "Would you join me for lunch?" Ava hesitated. No employee has ever been invited to lunch by the CEO. Elizabeth smiled softly. "Maybe today is different." During lunch, they talked for hours. Elizabeth showed her old family photographs she had kept inside her wallet for more than 20 years. Ava slowly reached into her backpack and removed a faded picture of herself sitting on her father's shoulders at a county fair. The tears they had both held back finally fell. For the first time in decades, mother and daughter embraced. But Elizabeth soon discovered another painful truth. Ava had been working overtime every week without proper pay. Some supervisors regularly gave cleaning staff extra work while taking credit for their effort. Many workers were afraid to complain because they needed their jobs. Elizabeth quietly investigated everything. The next morning, she gathered every employee in the main auditorium. Everyone expected another business announcement. Instead, Elizabeth walked onto the stage holding Ava's hand. She looked around the silent room. "Yesterday, I found my daughter." The room became completely still. "For months, she has cleaned your offices. Many of you walked past her every day. Some of you ignored her. Some treated her with disrespect. Several managers lowered their heads." Elizabeth continued, "I became successful because ordinary people worked hard beside me. No position makes someone more valuable than another." She then announced immediate promotions for honest supervisors who treated every employee with respect. Managers who had abused workers were dismissed before the meeting ended. She also introduced new company policies guaranteeing fair wages, paid education programs, and emergency family support for every employee, from janitors to executives. Ava Ava asked her mother one question later that evening. Why didn't you fire everyone who ignored me? Elizabeth smiled. Because kindness teaches better than revenge. Some people need a second chance, just like I did. Inspired by her mother's words, Ava chose not to leave the cleaning department immediately. Instead, she spent several months working alongside the staff who had become her friends. She listened to their struggles and helped improve working conditions across every company location. Eventually, Elizabeth invited her to lead the company's Employee Care Foundation, a charity that supported struggling families, single parents, and workers facing financial hardship. Within a few years, thousands of employees received scholarships, housing assistance, child care support, and emergency medical help through programs Ava personally designed. Reporters often asked Elizabeth what her greatest business achievement had been. She always gave the same answer. It wasn't building a billion-dollar company. It was finding my daughter and learning that true wealth begins with kindness. Ava would simply smile and add, never judge someone by the uniform they wear. You never know the story they carry inside. Every Christmas, mother and daughter placed a new heart-shaped necklace into a gift box and donated it anonymously to a child who had lost hope, reminding them that love has an incredible way of finding its way home. Sometimes life separates people for years. Sometimes misunderstandings steal precious time that can never be returned. But kindness has a quiet power that reaches places money, success, and pride never can. The smallest act of respect can change someone's entire future. So the next time you meet someone who seems invisible, remember Ava. A kind word, a smile, or a helping hand may become the beginning of the greatest miracle in someone's life. And perhaps, just perhaps, kindness will lead you home.